Hello, everyone. I hope y'all had a great April break, and welcome back to the Playoff Podcast. Today, it's just another day in the studio, Spotlight Studio, featuring the Playbook Podcast and obviously the Playoff Podcast, where we always post our weekend episodes with me and JoJo and Israel. Today, Israel's not here. He's at a basketball workout, but, just feel like he's here. Just imagine Israel right there. But we had a great opportunity over the weekend. We had a very busy weekend, as always. We were at Junior 3 SSB, and we had a great experience, a lot of competition, and just basically left us with a lesson that we got to get better to make sure that we're able to play at that high level. And the team is back. Me and JoJo are both here.
Sir.
We're here to talk about the 2025 NFL Draft and also the NBA playoffs. And I just hope you guys enjoy this episode. JoJo, you got something to say?
Yes, sir. Welcome back. Brought to you by Maine Love. Thank you to everybody who entered the giveaway. And we're here with a very special guest from South Portland High School. We're here with Coach Jackson.
Appreciate you guys having me on.
Should have a very fun episode. We got a lot of things to talk about, just like Lionel just said.
Whole lot.
But first, you want to talk about 3SSP? You met an NBA champ there, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Yes, indeed. Today, I'm pretty sure on Saturday, I was warming up, doing my stretches, and, just basically getting my mind and my body loose before my game. And I saw Kyle Lowry across the court, and I was like, I got to go see him. That's like one of the greatest point guards in NBA history. So I went over, and I gave him a quick dap, and I asked him a couple questions on how he's just such a great point guard on the both ends of the court, on offense and defense. And he gave me some great tips, and I'll always keep those for the rest of my life. Great experience. And, we could tag Kyle Lowry on here, and he'll
we
drop a
what's
quick
up.
like in a comment.
That's what's up.
But, yeah, it was a great experience. I loved it. And, I'm going to start playing like Kyle Lowry now.
Yeah. So you said he was like similar size to you. Does that give you a little like
Yeah,
inspiration?
it gave me
almost?
a little, I felt actually kind of happy. I'm not worried about my height no more. But, yeah, he's a pretty decent height for a point guard. He's around like 6 foot, maybe 5'11". So, that's not that big of a deal. So height, that basically just tells me like height doesn't matter, no matter what level you're on. So
yeah, Ryan said being low was good. Low.
Yeah,
You want to be
lowest
low
man
anyways.
wins, yeah.
But anyways, so let's go to South Portland. You're tied in with basketball, football. Obviously, we could talk about maybe a little bit about the NFL draft that just happened this past weekend.
Whatever's clever, whatever you guys want to talk about, I'm in there. I'm game.
So we were just talking about Shedeur, like them passing up on Shedeur until the 4th round when he was projected to be maybe like a top 3 pick. Would you have any insight on that?
That's interesting, man. I had my different feelings about it, and one of my feelings about it was, I didn't mind their attempt to try to humble him, but that's a hard family to humble. You know what I mean? We're talking about
Dion.
His dad being one of the greatest athletes that I've ever seen in my life. Like, he's right up there with Bo Jackson for me. And I even got to see a little bit more of Dion just based on his career, the longevity of his career. And Shedeur, I watched him a lot this year, man. He was, for me, easily probably the second top 3 quarterbacks. I thought Dart was tough, and of course Cam Ward was my number one.
Cam Ward was my number 1 as well.
But I watched Shedeur a lot, and I think the only knock that some people would have on Shedeur is he didn't play in like that SEC.
He opted out of the combine trainings as well.
Yeah, certain ways he didn't help himself. I think there was a moment where Dion might have got a little ahead of himself by kind of doing the Peyton Manning, the Archie Manning. My son won't play for these teams if you draft him. I don't think that helped them. But I think more than anything, they wanted to humble him. They wanted to humble Shedeur. They wanted to humble that family.
So he landed in Cleveland. I'm excited to see how that works because I think that will give him some confidence. You know, as an athlete right now, when like people almost like doubt on you, you can use that as confidence.
yeah,
as
you just
fire.
turn into fuel.
That absolutely is the best situation for him. What happened to him is fantastic. I mean, outside looking in, it's what I loved about Shedeur though, man, is he just kept it. Even when he was drafted in the 5th round, they still celebrated as if he was drafted the first pick. And that let me know that, man, he definitely didn't get down on himself or where he was at, because I think he knows within himself that he's that guy. He's one of those guys. So I think that it's obviously a much bigger, it was colluded, of course. So there's no way you slip to the 5th round. I think this is one of my things that, I mean, if you think about us being owners, and you have a family like that. And it's not necessarily Shedeur's fault and not Dion's fault, but what ends up happening is a circus comes. Doesn't mean they're the clowns, but we were talking about it earlier before the podcast. You bring a lot of attention to you just because of who you are. and I think a lot of the owners told them GMs and them coaches is like, yeah, we're not doing that. And the GMs and the coaches are like, I'm trying to keep my job. So.
And just for Shedeur, that's like a multi-day process. And I don't know if you saw like the prank call on him where somebody
I saw that.
Somebody called him and like was acting like he was the Saints.
That was one of the come to find out, was one of the Atlanta Falcons coach's sons.
Wow.
And he sent out, if you guys find it, I don't know if Coach B can find it or whatever when he gets a chance. He sent out an apology to Shedeur, and posted it. I guess he ended up being able to call him back later on and just say, hey, I was out of pocket for that.
I also just wanted to piggyback off what you said to the Manning family, and also the Sanders family. What do you think is different between Peyton Manning saying, "Oh, I don't want my son playing here," instead of the Big Sanders saying, "Oh, if my son gets picked here, I don't want him to play here." What do you think is the difference between those two families?
I mean, we keep it a buck. I mean, skin tone's a difference, but. That's a whole nother that's a whole nother ball of wax, you know what I mean? But that's a difference. And I will also say, the Mannings aren't nearly as flamboyant.
Not as
the
brash
Sanders.
almost.
Not as brash. And sadly, when people that look like you and I are brash or confident in our abilities, whether we're doing the right things on and off the field, we're still viewed a certain way. And a lot of people won't agree with that. But real ones know. They kind of made it hard on themselves too. You know what I mean? I don't think they saw what was coming. And so with the Mannings, they weren't nearly as, I won't say they weren't as known as Dion, but different type of family, they moved a little different. Archie wasn't the head coach. Archie wasn't the head coach of a major college team. You know what I mean? So it's a little different, but a lot of the same. I mean, we got Baker Mayfield, who was wilding out. We got who else? I mean, we got a couple guys that
Johnny
Manziel.
Johnny Manziel.
I mean, he was kind of praised for being a little maverick. You know what I mean? And they had their issues off the field. Now, if you want to talk about Shedeur, he hasn't done a single thing wrong off the field at all. So for them to view him the way they're viewing him, I mean, there was definitely more to it. Mm-hmm. They didn't help themselves, in my opinion. But I definitely feel like a lot of the owners did not want to deal with a possible circus.
Mm-hmm. But then you look at his teammate, Travis Hunter, who was a little more buttoned up, didn't really talk as much or have that big of a personality off the court. Obviously, it helps when Deion Sanders is your father, so that kind of ties in, and also the coach. But Travis Hunter goes second to Jacksonville, and he seems stoked. He seems super stoked to go to Jacksonville, and I think it's going to be super interesting to see how he can play, because he says he wants to play two positions in the league, which is almost not heard of.
Yeah. So how do you think that's going to work out? Because in the league, it's a completely different level.
Game. I mean, he could do it. It's been done. Mm-hmm. He could do it. I mean, Deion did it for a while.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's the crazy aspect. Is literally his coach was a player who was both corner and catching the ball in offense.
He can do it, but I'm gonna tell you right now, he's gonna have to get in the weight room, right now. You know what I mean? He's gonna need to get in that weight room for sure. And that's funny too. I mean, and we'll get right back to that. But it's funny you mentioned Kyle Lowry, and you're talking about he's not that big, but he's swole. So that's what you're gonna have to do is get in that weight room, you know. And I don't know. And he got that big old booty too. So I don't know.
He does,
man. Boy, you know what I'm saying? He boxing cats out. So I don't know if you got to do squats or what you could have to do, Lionel, to get it right. But you know what I'm saying?
You've seen the memes.
But
I've seen all of them. All of them.
But
Shedeur.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well,
I just was thinking about that earlier, and I was
you're good.
I like that aspect, talking about making it to the next level in size, and is actually something we've talked about. Or Ryan, when he was here, he's played professionally and at a super high college level, and he was talking about just the size. It's obviously players are playing at a much higher skill level. They're much quicker. They're much more knowledgeable. But a big thing he was saying is just the size and the strength, and how that's such a big thing taking it to the next level. And I'm sure you would have some insight about that through your sports career.
Size is a tough one. And I know it's something you probably think about a lot, Lionel, because I know you're like, man, when am I going to grow? Like, you know, I'm a Seattleite, so I've seen a lot of the ballers play in high school. And I remember watching Isaiah Thomas in high school, and he was shooting the way he's shooting now, like the way we saw him shooting in the NBA. And he's always been that size, and he should always be like, when am I going to grow? You know what I mean? And similar to your aspirations. So, I mean, him being able to do it lets you know that anyone can do it. But you also got to realize, man, there's a lot of discrimination towards a short guy on the basketball court. I mean, they're always looking for that tall guy. I mean, there's sometimes they want a tall guy that's not skilled.
I think especially as the NBA seems to be pivoting to a positionless league, you look at like Luka Doncic, who's a 6'7" point guard,
Right.
and he might not have the quickest handles or quickest footwork on defense, but he's just such a force, especially in the paint. If you can have a guy bringing up the court that can also finish in the lane, I think that's crazy. So I think having size is definitely something that's becoming even more and more important.
Yeah, Lionel, I think your size is coming, though, boss.
Heck yeah.
Look at your daddy.
Yeah, we need a
Look
Coach
at your
B
daddy,
cam.
man. Coach, yeah, we do need a Coach B. You need to add a Coach B cam up in this piece. Like, look at your daddy. What's crazy, just probably may not hit you till you're in, 11th, 12th grade.
Yeah.
But that's a good time for it to hit.
Exactly.
I think honestly, it's honestly a good thing if it hits later than earlier in some aspects, because you have that time to learn as well as a undersized guard and play against even larger people.
Absolutely.
And then when I get to that height, even if I make it to like 6'5", I'll be able to play inside and out easily because
Right.
I'm already learning how to play out. I'm basically mastered how to play out. Now I'm learning how to play mid-range and also inside.
Right.
Be able to just maneuver around big guys inside the paint and maneuver around those trees and be able to get my finishing up and all those buckets and passing off like a point guard should do.
Which is nice, too, because I heard you've been working with my son a little bit,
Yes,
too.
sir.
He had a lot of positive things to say about you, too, by the way. So, yeah, he's impressed. He is really enjoying your game and wants to kind of help, contribute a couple other little pieces to your game that you can use. And he's digging it, though.
I was just about to pivot into your sons who play.
Oh, yeah. Same.
And you look at the Sopo hat and the Sopo shirt.
Yeah,
Obviously,
I rep the town a little bit.
Of course. I think that's huge as well for culture in schools when you have people repping the school and being proud. But Gabe Jackson, and we can talk about the state championship game against Wyndham this year where they just fell short to Wyndham, and Gabe Jackson, your son, played such a huge role in that game, in that whole playoff series.
Extremely proud of him. My oldest is Jalen and my youngest is Gabe. And Gabe is a lot different from Jalen. It took him a lot longer to really kind of fall in love with basketball. And I didn't see it coming. He was a football kid, and so I didn't see it coming. But I pushed Jalen so hard just throughout life because when he was 5 years old, we basically signed a contract. It was like, Dad, I want to work the cones. I said, are you serious about this game? I said, because if you are, there's going to be them days where you don't like me. And I feel like at times I was looking at it now, I was really hard on him in certain moments. So I didn't want to do that again with Gabe. So I've kind of been a little more hands off. But the thing with Gabe is all self-made. He's pushed himself. He is in the weight room every day. He went from having like bad knees and just kind of limping around on the court. He's vastly improved. And so everything that he's getting, he's a true definition of getting it from the mud. Like he got it from the gravel. Like he just bought a shooting gun. He and Clay, who's basically like one of my sons, they work out all the time. And Clay's a former Portland graduate with a championship there, but like they went in on a shooting gun, so they got one at the house now. So
that's awesome.
And he's probably out on it right now. So, but I'm proud of Gabe, man. He showed up in the championship, and it was an up and down year for him. Trying to stay consistent. I mean, I want to say the amount of balls that he shot that went in and out of a basketball hoop this year, that went in and out, were a lot.
That shooting gun's gonna help that.
A shooting gun should help it. So it's so proud of Gabe, man. Showed up in the championship game,
and also I would say, just like we mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, you learn from losses, and that can fuel you. So they might be making a demon right now this summer, and next SoPo year is going to be very fun to watch. You also have Darius Johnson, who is huge on the football field, but also made such a big presence in the playoffs last year. I remember he had like some nice putbacks. He went crazy.
Oh, yeah.
He plays like
He's
such
tough.
Caught
such
a nice
dog.
poster.
Like maybe not the most fundamental basketball player, but his football skills and his physicality definitely shows on the basketball court, whether it's grabbing rebounds or boxing out or just physicality and bringing intensity. How would you say that game translates over?
It translates big time because Darius, if he's not going to do anything else, he's going to rebound all day. He's going to be working on the glass all day. He's going to be working in the paint. And seeing with Darius this year, he had broke his collarbone during the football season against Portland, like in one of the last games.
Yeah, I was actually watching one of those games.
And fell on his collarbone. So he was out for a good, maybe six games, 5 or 6 games at least. So when he came back, he was hitting the ball off the other side of the square. You know what I mean? It took him a little while before he could get his touch, man. But he had those moments where he got his touch. And Darius is a beast, man. Darius is really, really focused on football, but he likes to play basketball. And so, he's doing a lot of things right now. He's doing track. He's doing the AAU ball with on John Morgan's junior squad. He's doing 7-on-7s with D'Angelo over at TGK. He's doing, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
he's a busy man to be scheduled.
Competitor needs to be in the gym or working somehow. I think that's huge. So even track and stuff. Lionel, I know you played track. How would you say that keeps you just in that competitive spirit, almost in that competition environment?
Yeah, 100%. It keeps me competitive, keeps me in shape, a lot of conditioning. Actually, today we had a lot of competitions with my sprinting teammates, me, Breda, and Gavin. We were just going at it full sprints, just putting our head down and just getting through those. We had a lot of hills today. We hit hills. We just compete all the time, no matter what. We're always competing. Competing comes with every single sport, and if you're not competing, there's no point in playing the sport.
Absolutely.
So competing is just obviously a key to every sport in the world right now.
Speaking of competing, if we want to go back to that Portland game, that battle of the bridge rivalry, South Portland and Portland. How has that been, or how would you describe that rivalry? Man,
it's a heck of a rivalry. It's been one of those things though, man. SP hasn't been able to get him since Jalen was a freshman. Ooh. So Portland been kind of giving us that work, but it's interesting too because Portland has been well coached for a while too with Sean Green, who's no longer there, but he's now up at Orno. But funny story about Sean Green, and we'll get to that Portland pieces. He was recommended to me when I was a head football coach at Deering by one of my players named Ben Trefethan. And Ben had reached out to myself and one of my assistants at the time, who was one of his assistants, Nick Cleash. And so he was like, "You have to hire this Coach Jay. You gotta see this guy, man. He's unbelievable." Da-da-da. And so then we brought him in. And he was unbelievable. And so Coach Green got that first year with me. It was my last year, but his first year of assisting. And then he went on to coach my son, Jalen, in 8th grade for the Portland Tide. And then he went on to Cape Elizabeth, got them a championship. And then he went to Portland, went to back-to-back championship, and got this last one.
I was just going to ask, what is it like being the father of 2 very talented athletes? And, what is it like balancing the life of a coach and also a father at the same time?
Well, I always like to say that I'm retired from coaching for the most part, but I still have my football camp, so I'm still Coach J. You know what I mean?
We'll get into that a little bit later.
Yeah, I'm still Coach J, but it's interesting. With Jalen, it was kind of I always kind of knew he's always been a pretty good low athlete, great balance. IQ to me is the best part of anything that he does. He's a pretty bright kid. Having him was interesting because it made it tough for Gabe because that's hard to follow. And like I said earlier, Gabe has just kind of forged his own path. I'm so proud of him because I haven't been on him the way that I was on Jay. And that's just for specific reasons of wanting to keep my relationship as his father more pure. And I don't want it to be tainted to a point where he resents me. And I think I kind of learned that a little bit with Jalen. Not that he resents me, but I think there's those moments and for me being so hard on him.
And also, I just wanted to piggyback off of when you were mentioning Portland. There's actually one of these very talented defensive linemen named Nathan Kapongo. He got invited to the Kansas City Chiefs minicamp. He's from Portland, grew up in Westbrook. He actually got here in America when he was in high school around there, sophomore. And my dad actually used to train him a lot over the summer.
I saw some videos of
Yeah.
Coach B training him.
Coach B training
dug
him.
in the archives and pulled out
Yeah.
some of that old Coach B training.
You can
I
see
you.
you can see me in the back for a little bit. I was over there watching him. I used to do my own workouts back there. I used to do footwork. But yeah, Nathan, he's very talented. I'm hoping he at least gets signed to whatever team, and he'll definitely have a great career because he had a great career in college. I'm pretty sure in Ohio. I forget the university's
to
name,
Akron.
but yeah, Akron. Yeah,
So Nate, I knew Nate just not super personal, but I coached against him at Deering my last year, and he was a problem on the field. Even back then, you could see the raw talent. And then when he got into UNH, I was like, oh, he's rolling. And so then once he got to UNH and was kind of doing his thing, I was keeping up a little bit. You know, you always kind of, that's one thing that is kind of beautiful about Maine. You know, we don't have a lot of people that go out and do major, end up playing major ball. But the ones we do, we really represent them. And Nate was one of those guys. So you'd hear about him. And then I heard that he was going to did he do a fifth year at Akron? So he did his fifth year at Akron. And then he must have had a good season there. And you say Kansas City Chiefs, huh?
yes.
Good for him.
Shout out to Nathan Kapongo.
Yes,
I
sir.
would say some more talent that you've probably coached against or at least seen Sopo play against is Cordell Jones.
Oh, I've known Cordell since he was little.
I'm not too familiar with the football side of things, but I've heard he's a phenomenal player. I've obviously seen him play basketball. But how would you say playing or Sopo matching up against him has been?
First, matching up with Cordell is a matchup nightmare. I coached Cordell against Cordell when he was little. So there was one year I was coaching after I was done at Deering, I coached South Portland's middle school, and we go head up with him and Nate. It was him and Nate Foley, and the squad was ridiculous. And he always got busy. I mean, you knew Cordell. Cordell's a prototype though, like meaning his body's already. He's already there. Like when I grew up, I played against Lawyer Malloy, and I played against against John Kitna, who ended up being professionals. But Lawyer Malloy was similar to kind of how Cordell is. Like you knew as a junior in high school, he's getting ready to go be an all-pro safety, or he's getting ready to go. So as long as Cordell can keep it right and make some smart decisions off the field, which I feel like he's matured a ton. Proud of him in that light. I feel like sky's the limit for him.
And obviously, Darius Johnson, his football ability, I see he spends a lot of time down with Syracuse and a lot of other programs have reached out. How would you talk about his?
I love
skill?
that you brought that up, man. That's cool, man. Like Darius, he lives with us right now. So he's been living with us pretty much since last summer, and sweet kid, smart kid. Just went on a visit to Columbia with the South Portland coach, Aaron Filio. He went to Syracuse. My wife took him to Syracuse. They loved Coach Fran. He went to, I took him to Boston College so he could see that. Like he was going to junior days. He's got a lot of camps coming up that he'll be bobbing and weaving with. But he really, really wants to play football. And so I think Maine is pretty interested in him. He's got some people with a lot of interest. So here's for a good season. But what he has to really do, and you know this, and Coach B, you know this, when there's camps that you attend, you have to show out. You have to. So he's got some camps. So that's where he's going to, I think, where he'll more than likely be able to get his scholarship will be how well he does in camp. So we're going to be getting him ready this summer, doing some training with him. I think Jalen's going to loosen up the arm and throw him some balls, and we're going to start just really getting him right.
So you say with like camps, that's your time to shine. Kind of going back to Junior 3 SSB, and I would say those big circuits and those tournaments are also your time to shine. It's not just your basic AAU matchup, but when you have all these teams across New England or across the nation playing, you're going to bring in all of those different coaches and all those scouts, and people talk. So how would you say like playing even just last weekend at Junior 3 SSB would like compare?
Before you do that, sorry, what is Junior 3 SSB? Like,
Oh,
I
3
saw
SSB
your highlights, if you don't mind.
So 3 SSB is basically the Adidas shoe circuit. It's basically like EYBL just for Adidas.
Okay.
So basically, it's like same thing, same shoe, like different brands, obviously, and then shoe circuits. They give them like brands, all this gear, all this.
Okay.
And then basically there's like the 17U teams that basically represent the entire organization.
Okay.
That travel most like all over the country. These are guys with like D1 offers, D2, all over the nation.
Right.
And basically that's just like basically an outlet for these kids that want to make it there. It showcase their talent to show that these kids can make it up there and play that in that organization in that level one day.
Gotcha.
And then
So,
obviously the junior part is for middle school juniors.
Got you. Now, and you're with the Mass Rivals?
Yes, Mass Rivals, yes.
Just was checking. Okay.
So yeah, we went over there and first game it was very competitive. We lost by 1 point. It was tragic, but we were competing head to head. But yeah, but it was a learning experience. Obviously, losing is a very big learning experience. We learned a lot of things from that. Obviously, as a leader, I had to make sure my team was doing well. And then in the second game, we started off strong against this team from Canada, Team Drop Off Elite. And then game started off well. We were competing, and then they just got a lot of momentum and kind of took over. But it was a great game, though. We'll get them next time whenever we play them.
I was talking to Coach B, and we were saying, I think I said this on another podcast. I didn't make this up. I saw it somewhere. But there's no such thing as, like, losing if you can learn from it. It's like winning and learning, not winning and losing. So I think, especially at a young age or, like, when the stakes aren't necessarily at the tippy top, you can learn so much from losing and even more than from winning. And also, you talk about being a leader. I'm a sidetrack. We just posted a mic'd up video of you that's kind of going very, very well on social media right now. It's got a lot of views on TikTok and a lot of traction on Instagram. And there's a lot of coaches reposting, complimenting your ability to speak as a player, especially as a young player. So I think that's huge because on the internet, which is a pretty negative place, I'd say, for the most part.
At times, yeah. Gift and a curse.
Yes, you see, I like to say you need hot and cold air to make a tornado.
Right.
But you have been getting a lot of positivity right now on this, and I think it's super inspiring to see, and I think it's awesome because there's some people who were saying, like, oh, you're just talking about this because you have the mic on, but how would you say the experience was, like, and how you have become so vocal as a player, especially as a young player?
I mean, the position I play automatically makes me have to be vocal. I'm a point guard. I'm just basically a second version of the coach, but on the court.
Like a quarterback.
Yeah, exactly, like a quarterback.
Floor general.
And floor general. I have to make sure my team is able to be there. Everybody's mindset straight. Everybody's able to play. Everybody's happy. Get the ball first to them. I'm not a scoring guard. I'm a point guard. So basically, being a leader and just being able to talk and communicate with my team and just basically just leading them is just my number one goal. So that's just great to see from all the people commenting on my TikTok. But 100%, most of the reason, sometimes I forget to, but I always have my dad on the sideline reminding me. So I got to always be vocal. But yeah, a lot of those comments, they always it's basically motivating me and makes me want to talk even more. And even the hate, I appreciate it too. It just tells me that I just need to talk even more.
Very important.
So yeah.
And I would say, as you edit through these videos, it's a whole game. You're obviously not talking the entire time, but you can see, especially at the end when you were getting a little more vocal because the game was getting a lot closer and it was winding down and your energy was kind of coming up a little bit more. You can see how talking and being vocal, especially with your teammates, or even just, I guess, being a leader can really contribute to success in the short term, but obviously also in the long term. And I saw this clip on Instagram where a coach was saying, if you're talking, your hands are going to be up, basically. So I think that's just a thing. Like, if you have that energy and you're talking, it's going to contribute to both your play, but also your team's play.
Exactly. Hey, we can't sidetrack from the questions on Coach Jackson.
No,
but
that's all good. I'm proud of you, man. Like,
I've
watched you when you were just a little guy, man, and to see you you come from a good cloth. I mean, your parents have always been strong. You got big brother Ricky, who's always been a good dude, always a lot of respect when I see him. So I'm proud of you, man. Talk your talk, man.
Thank you, Coach.
I would say we could talk about leadership and leaders you've seen throughout your coaching experience and how you can see leaders and how they grow out of sports or even continue playing sports.
Yeah, so I'm glad you're bringing it. You guys are good, man. You're bringing us some good stuff, man. I'm already seeing Lionel take that leader situation on, man, and I see it coming from your dad. Like, now we got a lot of new Mainers. We got a lot of people that are picking up basketballs that they can't communicate the way you guys can. We're talking about Lionel and your lovely mom, who I work with every day, being able to speak 4 or 5 languages. You know what I mean? And that's my hat's off for you for that, because I can barely speak English. You know what I'm saying? I'm born and raised here. You know what I'm saying? You feel me? Like, so, proud of you though, man. Like, so, but that's something to be proud of. And I seen you on the court talking in Portuguese. Like, I mean, just communicating. Like, and then I'm seeing you talk to someone that is American as apple pie. Cut, man. You tell them to cut. Like, so it's just nice. And you're not scared to speak to someone. You're not scared to say something because you don't want to hurt their feelings. You're like, look, man, it's not personal. It's business. And that's what I used to always tell my players. And then to, piggyback on what you were saying about leadership, I've been thinking recently about some of the players that I've had at the different levels that I've coached. And there's always a couple players throughout that kind of stand out where it's like when you're talking to them, you feel like you're talking to an adult. Mm-hmm. And I just saw one on Instagram the other day that just made me think about it. And I'm like, man, I always felt like I never wanted to say he was my peer, but he always talked as if he was without disrespect. It was just kind of like, I always had to check. I'm talking to a 16, 17-year-old kid here, but I feel like I'm talking to an adult. So very important to have that. That's a trait that you can't teach.
Thank you, Coach. And how have you seen over the years that the state of Maine has been evolving from basketball to football, and most of these athletes that are indulging in these sports are becoming very highly rated athletes and are becoming these D1 athletes that later on have professional futures?
Well, strangely enough, one of the sports that we're not even talking about where Maine probably gets the most D1 prospects is baseball.
Yeah.
The amount of kids that have D1 scholarships.
Your son has also played baseball, right?
Jalen, that's funny you say that. So Jalen played in the up to the 5th grade. Mm-hmm. And then he stopped playing. Gabe was playing. Gabe couldn't really catch a ball or hit a ball. I was like, bro, you got to do something else in the spring. And then we were like, lacrosse. So he started playing lacrosse. And then Jalen was like, I want to play lacrosse. So Jalen started playing lacrosse from 6th to 8th grade. And then he stopped as a freshman because I was like, look, if you're going to AAU it, you're not going to do a high school sport and AAU and then miss your high school games because you're going to play. I love AAU better than anything. Of course, I love AAU, but I'm like, you're not going to miss a high school game to go play an AAU tournament. But you're also not going to tell your AAU players like, hey, I can't make it this weekend. So I said, you're going to have to choose, and he chose. So then after his junior year, he stopped playing AAU because that's, for us and our family, that's technically when you're done. Unless you're reclassing. But for us, when you're a junior, that's your last year AAU. That's just my family. That's the way we look at it. So he was done after his junior year and decided he was going to play a spring sport. So I'm thinking, oh, you going back to lacrosse, And he is like, nah, Dad, I'm going to play baseball. I said, what? He said, you ain't played since you were in the 5th grade. I said, okay, so you going to play. I said, so you going to pinch run, right? He was like, I'm trying to play, Dad. I was like, what? So what I didn't know was throughout that season, during football season, he and Johnny Poole, who was one of the core 4 of that team that went to the Little League World Series back in the days, he would go with him and a few other players and go to the batting cage. This is during football season. They were going during basketball season, but I didn't know. So he ended up playing baseball, making a squad, played center field, and got another championship.
That's a sick story.
Wow.
Crazy, right?
It's like some documentary. That's
and he
a
wasn't the
story.
man by any stretch, but he helped. You know what I mean? He's running balls down. And then by the end of the season, you could tell that baseball was starting to come back to him, but it takes a while,
Yeah, it's a huge bull. Talking about documentaries, I want to talk about Michael Jordan, who went to play baseball, and it took him a while for it to come back. When he tried, he just was like, they were telling him, you can't just switch professional sports. It takes a while,
right?
And I think that's a super cool thing to show, the competitiveness of.
He's trying to come back and play football.
Nate Robinson.
He tried.
Nate Robinson also tried to box and got knocked out.
Hey, easy on my guys. So I'm born and raised in Seattle, Washington. So all those I can tell you all these players that I've seen play but I'll go back to your question because you asked about the D1. I'm sorry, let me spin it back. I'm one of those ones I jump all around.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
It's beautiful to see. I mean, Cooper's Cooper. Like, we already know what that is. I knew in 4th grade that he was special. I didn't know he was going to be doing what he's doing. Yes, I didn't know he was going to be doing what he was going to be doing, but I'll never forget when Andy McNabb said, hey, man, there's this kid playing on Leo McNabb's team, on Lil Leo's team. He goes, you got to see him. And then I just watched him, and he played the 1 through 5, played back-to-back plays. So he brought the ball down the first play, no look pass. Second play, catches the ball in the wing at the 2, hits a 3. Next one comes down on the 3, small forward, rips baseline. Like, 1 through 5. And I was like, what is happening? But that was back then. So basically with Coop, everything you see him doing now, he was doing in the 4th grade except dunking. So it's nothing new. But it's hard to find those type of players too. I mean, for Maine, I get all my Seattle heads. Now they're calling like, oh, or last year, what's up with this Cooper flag? I said, man, I told you about Cooper 2 years ago. But now everyone's,
everybody. There's been a very big rise on people who know Cooper flag.
Yeah, now all of a sudden they know.
Look, to be fair, Maine is such a small like local community type of thing. So there is also a lot of people who genuinely have been involved because that family has been so impactful on Maine, and they've been so like involving, and so many people have got to see that rise and feel like they've been a part of that rise because it's huge.
Oh yeah, it's funny because back in the days, Andy Bedard, who's their coach, he used to have Jalen and JP. Shout out JP Estrella. That's another JP. One. You know, that's nice to be 6'11", with some skill. You know what I mean? Yeah. But he used to have those guys beat up on them a little bit. He always, when Jay was older, not necessarily taller, but just stronger and more muscular, he used to have them beat up on that younger squad. And so you have those D1 guys. You have a few of them out here. So it's beautiful seeing.
Also, shout out Caden.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And what's the most important lesson you learned over like your experience as a coach and a father throughout the years?
Know how to separate the two.
So what are some lessons you learned as a father, basically teaching your son how to make it there without really except like for how you did for Gabe, how you taught him how to be the person he is today without really give him that push that you gave to Jalen, and what is like the difference between those two, and how can you like...
Man, I think the difference between the way it happened, the way that it happened with Jalen and the way that it happened with Gabe, man, it's tough because sometimes Gabe will be like, man, you did this for Jalen, or you said this to Jalen, I'm gonna need you to be and I think about our relationship, and my relationship with Gabe is great. My relationship with Jalen is good, but you kind of learn going through your oldest. I'm sure Coach B can tell you, you could think about some of the mistakes you might have made with the older. It's like being that baby brother and you see your older brothers doing dirt and you're like, yeah, that's not how I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so
I'm the youngest, so I've definitely been able to learn from my siblings. And I feel like also my parents, like being able to see what worked with parents, because as a parent, it's also your first shot, like when you have your first kid. So from a parent perspective, as you would know, how different it is having that first kid and then the youngest as well.
Absolutely.
And what's your vision for future of the future of high school sports here in Maine?
I can't lie, I'm a little nervous and a little scared because I feel like for when you have someone like a Cooper Flag or a JP, I feel like a lot of people think that they're on that level. And, I tell a lot of people this. I've told a lot of people I coach this. It's like, look, you're going to go pro in something. It's just more than likely not going to be a sport. Mm-hmm. I tell them that as a coach, and people are, oh, you're crushing their dreams. I'm not crushing any dreams. You're going to be a pro, but it's going to be a different job. I mean, there's not a lot of people, that are in those jobs in the first place. So, and there's a lot of politics to it too, So, yeah, that's kind of how I look at that.
That's something that I've seen, and I think that's a good thing and a bad thing because it obviously instills that confidence. But once then you get to, like, let's say the high school level and you're not getting those offers or that attention, it can kind of crush some dreams, and then people don't really know where to go if they invested everything into the sport. But going to these tournaments, you see these huge gyms full of kids, and every single one of these players thinks they're going to go pro and thinks they're going to be the next Cooper Flag. and it's great. But I think there's also there's light and dark with everything, and I think it's great. But I think it's not even the kids, but I think what you were saying, politics, when the adults are getting involved in almost sort of selling this dream to a degree,
Yes.
and trying to push these kids up and give them a false reality, whether that's
Right.
for a monetary perspective or whether that's just their own ego or whatever.
Right. And it's hard. It's hard because every parent wants their child to be successful. So you naturally want to, but you also have to teach them reality. Like, as much and as talented as Lionel is and how hard Lionel's going to work to get to where he's going to go, it's not guaranteed. And so what else do you have to bring to the table? Because, we kind of found out early with Jalen, like it's hard when you're a 5'10" point guard, a coach has to want you. A coach has to dig Lionel. They have to be like, this is what I love about Lionel. Versus if you're 6'5", 6'6", we're having a different conversation. Because a lot of coaches feel like getting a kid that's 5'10" that can do what Jalen can do is a dime a dozen. You know what I mean? They feel like they can that's not a hard position to go get. Because there's so many people that are like us that are 5'9". You know what I mean? Not everybody's big and sexy like Coach B. Now, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not everybody's built like that, man.
It is
So
You got a D line back there.
you know what I mean? So I mean,
got a security.
it's important, man. I think we got a lot of kids nowadays that really, really think that prep is the route. And I'm not trying to discourage kids from going to prep, but prep is very. I mean, I'm a fan of the post grad because I'm a fan of kids enjoying their high school days, enjoying being with the girls, enjoying being able to be with friends, going to proms, taking pictures, being able to hang out with your folks. Because a lot of times, man, when you give that up and go to a prep school, it is not what you think it was or what you think it is. You have to really be locked in, and you can go and it's too late. Or you have some people that'll go to prep school and and then have success, which is a beautiful thing. But you'll have some that go and do fairly well, all to end up to where they were going to end up if they would have stayed in high school. So
And just spend that extra money.
and they spend that extra
Waste
bread.
it-
I mean, it's fool's gold because some of these prep schools, they're going to tell you what they want, what they think you want to hear. They want your money. They're always looking for a better Lionel Despacio. They're always looking for, a better player. Always.
So I was just at Bridgeton Academy, which is a prep school, and Trevor Costin was there, who was a former NFL player, as well as Ryan Martin. They were doing a little Q&A with the players, and he said a very good point, similar to what you were just saying, how when you're there or when they're scouting you, they love you. They're calling your parents. They're calling you. They're like calling you on a first name basis, like calling, checking in. How's mom? How's dad? How are you doing? How's school? But then once you get on that field, he was talking about from a football experience, from a field, when you get on the field, all you get is a piece of tape with your last name. And you do not get that same treatment that you did when you were in the scouting room or when they were scouting you, rather, and trying to get you there. Then you turn into a player or a number.
Yeah, I call it fool's gold. You know what I mean? So when you make that decision, whatever decision you make going forward, obviously map that out with your parents, and I'm sure your parents will do that investigating. But I mean, just because you go prep doesn't mean you're gonna make it. And I think a lot of people kind of think like they give you some magic beans, and then all of a sudden, you got to keep working. Like the work never stops. So,
And I think we didn't really touch on this enough. If you want to talk more about your background, because you obviously have some very, very great advice for Lionel, and that comes only from experience. You can't be faking this. So, what's your background in sports?
So I grew up in Seattle, Washington, back in good old 1974. My OG. I'm the big 5-0. I'm in the club, we like to say. And I grew up in a little, town that's like 5 minutes away from where Jamal Crawford went to school at Rainier Beach, and I went to Renton High School, and that's the same city that the Seahawks have their practice facility.
Okay.
In. So I lived on a hill called Skyway. Shout out Skyway 206. And I grew up there playing football since I was a little guy. I have older brothers. One is 5 years older, one was 10 years older, one was My dad was older when he had me. So I grew up around a lot of athletes and loved football. Football was like my jam, but then I loved basketball as well. Played like my freshman year. Got into it with my freshman coach. It wasn't a pretty scene. Pretty, a wilding out as a 15-year-old. But at the same time, this coach kind of thought he was Bobby Knight. And back then I was not feeling what Bobby Knight was about. Just certain things I wasn't going to allow you to say. I was 15, wilding. And so I didn't come back out till like my senior year. And then I had a shoulder injury from football that kind of affected my situation. Got into it with one of the coaches again, not a scrap, but just, decided basketball wasn't for me in that sense, but I still always hooped. Then I went on to play football at Central Washington University after my senior year. That was an NAIA school back then. Played with John Kitna. Like I said before, I played against John Kitna and Lawyer Malloy, but what a lot of people don't realize is those are Tacoma boys. Same with Isaiah Thomas, is a Tacoma boy, and this is wild. The backcourt of Isaiah Thomas and who was he? Had great defense. They were in the backcourt together. Isaiah Thomas, not Marcus Smart. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. Defense was crazy. He and Isaiah were the starting backcourt at
Avery Bradley.
Avery Bradley.
Yeah, Avery Bradley.
So Avery Bradley was also a Washington kid. Both those guys are from Tacoma, Washington. A lot.
I would just because you're
Malachi
Banchero
Flynn,
as well, yeah.
Banchero. We know all of them Banchero's families and whatnot. I got a lot
he's going crazy against the Celtics right now.
Yeah, he's
they
tough.
might not be winning, but he's still showing off his skill and his brand.
Yeah, so grew up there, and I mean, like I said, like a lot of athletes out of that spot. Jamal Crawford, right around the corner from me. All these guys are Rainier Beach, so there's Rainier Beach High School. All these guys kind of grew up, and you just kind of grew up. I grew up with Corey Dillon, all these guys. Jason Terry, my cousin played with Jason Terry, got a championship with him, and my cousin rest in peace. So all those guys, Aaron Brooks,
and
Brandon Roy.
You saw the Supersonic
Oh, don't talk about my Sonics. It's so hard watching OKC. They stole my team like thieves in the night. If you ever get a chance, you guys go watch Sonic skate to see what they did to my team, man. Came in and stole.
Gary Payton, Sean Kemp.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Guys.
I had my Gary Payton jersey on the other week out at the basketball tournament. And all the old heads was like, they don't know about that jersey. Got a lot of compliments. So grew up there. Went to Central Washington University for my freshman year. Had a crazy incident with the police where I was maced while I was handcuffed. It was one of them crazy scenes on campus. So I left and went back home, went to Seattle Central Community College. And then I went back to Central to get my degree. Finished there in 98. And met my wife on a blind date that neither one of us wanted to go on. And that's how I got the Maine ties, because she was in the town nannying for her sister for a year. And I met her with like a month and a half left of her nannying. So we kind of just thought it was going to be a fling. Like you're about to leave, and then it didn't happen that way. Next thing I know, I'm making trips to Maine. She's making trips to Seattle.
That's a long trip.
Yeah. To see a friend. You know what I'm saying? So then she comes back. I mean, so then we're together. She moved back to Seattle for 7 years. And so that's how that happened. So then Jalen was 3. Yeah, Jalen was born in Seattle. Jalen was born in Seattle. He moved out here at the age of 3, and Gaby was 30 days old when she flew him out here. So we've been out here since March of 08. And then just kind of from there, I ended up, I was working at a little spot out in Gray called Opportunity Farm, which was a halfway house, because that's kind of my background, is always working with people that struggle. And I've been at the high school. Then I ended up getting out at the high school that same year. So I've been at South Portland High School since 09, 08, 09. And so that I'm the in-school suspension dude there.
Oh,
nice. / restorative guy. So I like to say I get the cool kids. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like my background, man. But I've always been a sports guy. And then naturally I got out here, got right into coaching. Aaron Filio, shout out Coach Filio. He's a South Portland coach. He DJ'd our wedding. And so that's how I was able to know him. Because we got married, because Andrea and I got married out here before we moved out here. So we got married lived back in Seattle for like another year and a half, moved out here. I met Aaron. Aaron realized I was a football guy, a sports guy, brought me on as a co-head coach for the middle school squad, and then I also coached the DBs that year in 09. So that's how I got in, and then kept coaching, and then applied for Deering 3 times, got it the 3rd time. Should have got it the 2nd time, didn't deserve it the 1st time, but that's kind of how that worked. And so I've been here ever since.
Kind of backpacking to, you said moving here. Lionel, you moved to Maine.
I was just about to bring that up.
What are some of your first memories of Maine?
I mean, the first thing that I saw when I got to Maine was a big shiny sign that was the shape of an M, and it said McDonald's. And that was the first thing. It's literally right at the Greyhound bus station, and literally same street. You get out
St. John Street.
Yeah, St. John Street. You get out the bus station. You get out the bus actually, and you just step out. You just see that sign right there. You see Save-A-Lot literally across the parking lot. You got CFC. You got everything there. So basically, that was like the first thing. That was my first memories. And then we also moved into the shelter. It's on not Forest. It's literally across the street from Portland High School.
Cumberland.
Yeah, Cumberland. Yeah, we were homeless for a year, and there's a lot of struggles. But we eventually were able to be housed at the shelter right across Portland High School. And over the years, I went to Ocean Avenue, and every day after school, I would go to the Boys and Girls Club with Ricky, and we just spend time there until my parents got off of work. And then we would just hit the YMCA, hit the gym for hours and hours every single day. I mean, the grind was real. I've always interested in basketball ever since I saw Ricky play at the LA Fitness, and when he played at BU. It's an organization that was in Houston when Ricky used to play in middle school.
What age do you think when you kind of found your love for basketball?
I mean, I would say around 2 or 3 years old.
That's crazy.
Because I wasn't that big of an iPad kid. I was more of an outdoors kid. I was always running around and just going outside with my friends, playing outside with my little dog, Bubby. I miss Bubby a lot. But, I used to just be outside all the time. And ever since, my dad brought me to the gym that first day I touched the basketball, I was in the gym. I was like, yeah, this is for me. Every single time. There's actually a video of me shooting with Ricky when he was done with his workout. I made the shot, and then I hit a little dance move after, and that just shows, I just enjoy playing the game. But, yeah, that's just how it all started. And
that emotional attachment. I know that little, there's a clip on your Instagram.
Oh, yeah, me dribbling at the YMCA. Had, the heavy-weighted gloves. Yeah, I was, there's a lot more videos, a lot more deep in the archives, but,
That's saving it for the documentary.
Yeah, just documentary videos,
I remember when you guys first got here, because I would see Coach B, and I'd see you guys just grinding, and then I met Ricky. I think the first time I met you, you were taking Ricky in to see Corey. Remember Coach Corey? And Ricky was on that freshman squad, and then I was like, Ricky was at Deering, but he was like a senior or a junior, and I'm like, how are you on the freshman squad? And he's like, because I'm 2 years higher than, and I'm like, wow. You know what I mean? So that was just that, but that's how I met Ricky. I met you guys.
Mm-hmm. I want you to talk to me about Maine basketball.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I see your notes here.
He's had a couple of questions about that too.
Background. You said you want to talk about the current state of AAU. Obviously, you have kids that are playing. We talked about Darius playing earlier. What would you say the current state of AAU in Maine is?
Man, the current state. Like I told you before the podcast, I saw a glance at a little clip of you, and you're talking about the gatekeeping. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's gotten to the point. Yeah, I'm on it. It's gotten to the point, man, where the gatekeeping is a little bananas. People just kind of acting weird and struggling with letting players go, doing what they can to get players. You get, it's a dirty game across the board, because I remember when AAU was first a thing, and AAU was supposed to, even before here, just when I was young and when you guys were in Houston, AAU was designed to be something that was pure, you know what I mean? And that meant a lot in other ways and ways to get kids to get better at basketball. I believe it still does that, but it's so watered down, just like any industry that sees something that is a good money grab. It's like rap. Rap used to be, you know what I mean?
Pure culture.
Pure culture. Now it's like, how can I make money off of it? You know what I mean? And that's just the way, sadly, that's the way new beautiful things, what happens with new beautiful things. And so in regards to Maine, I just feel like There's some good coaches out here. There's some good players out here. But then you got some that just, they're interesting. We like to call it funny style. You know, it's when you do things like you said, when we say gatekeeping, like when you do things and let's say for instance, I have Lionel in my program, and Lionel decides he needs to make a different move, right? I'm not going to hold Lionel, especially if that move that Lionel is making is a better move for him. So if this other place where he's going can give him more than what I can give him, man, 1,000%, man. I watched Abiola Davids do that with JP. I mean, he probably handled that situation when he went to Middlesex Magic. He probably handled that better than I would have as a, you know what I mean? Because I'm one of those ones that's like, man, why can't we build our own thing here? You know what I mean? I'm one of those. Like, I mean, the poaching of players is crazy, but it's obviously not just Maine. Like you have, I mean, it's crazy in other states. You see it. You're down there with the rivals. You're probably seeing people every day talking to you. Hey, let me holler at you. Yeah. And so now that's kind of the thing in Maine, man. And I think it's wild because there's not as many programs here. So there's a bigger spotlight on it. But
and I would say kind of like what we were saying earlier with how every kid thinks they're going to make it to the NBA. So they're seeing these AAU programs as a big glorified label or name that's also representing them. They feel good in this jersey. They feel like something greater than themselves in this jersey. But when you have these parents, or not parents, but these adults that are trying to, they don't care about the kids, but they care about the money, them paying for that jersey. And they're almost forgetting the aspect of what founded AAU, which was youth programs to make kids better.
Yes.
And
Go
do
ahead.
you think, like, basically, you know how some teams are gatekeeping these players. Do you think the cause of this is because of the money, or do you want these kids to, like, basically build fame in your organization?
Man, I mean, you got some coaches out here that all their kids are playing for free because that's what they want to do to have the best kids. So, I mean, but then you have some coaches nowadays that are bad-mouthing the kids that are trying to get out of state to play. And I know that's not how you guys move because you understand the exposure piece. And even beyond exposure, it's important to get out of state to just meet people and people that don't look like you and see how
Competition.
Yes. So when you start getting these guys that are like, oh, you don't really need to go out of state. You don't really need to go out of state to be a better player or to get better competition. Yeah, you absolutely need to get out of Maine.
Yeah, so
to see better competition.
So my friend, I never played AAU basketball or really any like AAU program through sports, but my friends all did. My friends did it super competitively, and one of my friends was talking about how this team went out of state. It was a Maine team, and you're out of state, and you're soon now playing against Team Durant, and you're playing against like Chris Paul's team.
Yes.
You're playing against all these huge teams that they're not coming up to Maine. We don't have we haven't had a place. We have gyms here, but we haven't had the representation to hold a big circuit up here because that's more for these more established infrastructures such as like New York, Boston.
Right.
And so yes, absolutely you need to go out of Maine. And I think it's a little crazy saying that you can stay in Maine and get to the highest level because there's all the competition is in 49 other states. Obviously you have your competition here, but I think that's what school ball is mostly for as well. But obviously we're trying to grow Maine and get the competition higher, which it has been in the past 5 years. It's insane how much Maine has grown, and it's a beautiful thing.
Right.
But I think it's a little crazy when you're trying to shame players for going outside of the bowl a little bit, going outside the pond.
Right. Well, I mean, let's keep it a buck, man. Some of these places don't have the finances to travel, but they want to keep the best players in their program. So if they have to say, hey, you know, you don't really need to travel. No need to really get out, you know. You don't need to do all that traveling, you know, playing all those games, like jumping onto that. Because I feel like you can have a balance of the two. Mm-hmm. Like, it's hard to have, you can't have 5 practices a week playing AAU ball. But you definitely should be practicing. But you get a lot of people that are so worried about losing players that, you know, they'll do and say anything. he'll get on their players' DM and talk wild to them about them leaving. You know?
And do you think like Cooper basically being a guy that coming out of Maine, a very talented player, ever since he came out of Maine, do you think these coaches are looking for the next Cooper flag, like you were talking about earlier, and they're just trying to gatekeep these kids to see if they become that next Cooper or the next LeBron or Kyrie, and like later on be able to like represent their organization? Like,
you're talking about coaches that are here,
yes,
AAU coaches here,
or just in general, coaches in general.
Always. I mean, I think you get a lot of that, but then you also get certain coaches. You also get coaches that are willing to let you go. Like, that's one of the things I love about John Morgan, man. Like, I talk about him like he's like almost like a little. Sorry. John Morgan is the head basketball director at the Thunder basketball for the boys. Abiola Davis is for the girls. So, but John Morgan, man, when originally Gabe came over there, man, he just decided to work with Gabe, and he didn't care if Gabe was going to become the best player ever. Yes. He didn't care if he was going to be the best player ever. He just was going to coach him. And that's kind of his mentality. John has always been that guy that like, oh, you want to leave? I'll holler at you. That's always been him. And he'll let you go. And I appreciate that about him, because that's the thing with coaches. You get a lot of these AAU coaches that really and truly want to try to keep a kid just because they're good. Or they watch someone else develop a kid from day uno, talk mess about that kid, and then all of a sudden they're whispering in that kid's parents' ear talking about, yeah, why don't you have him come over here? You know what I mean? I've seen it many a times. But no one's really willing to kind of talk about it. But it is what it is, man. It's like, okay, but that's never been a John Morgan. That's why we mess with John. John Morgan's a unbelievable basketball coach, but he's a way better human being. And he is one of the reasons that my son is what he is as a player, but also what he is as a young man. He's contributed. So,
and I mean, I think that just shows somebody who loves the game of basketball. For me, I think, not to obviously say it's the exact same thing, but with my photography and videography career, I started just doing things for free, not thinking about money. Mm-hmm. Similar to you saying John Morgan, he'll be doing things for free because you genuinely love the game. And once you are starting to look at things for money, they say money is the root of all evil. So if that's your main goal, I don't think you're ever gonna grow or ever going to make a positive impact. You might make an impact, but I think if you genuinely love what you're doing, you could do it for free, and you don't even need money.
Mm-hmm. It goes both ways with the financial piece, though, because you have some coaches, like I said, certain players play for free and other players have to pay. And then I know you guys have been around and seen it, where you might have a player that is not that paid, and they're playing against a certain team. All of a sudden, there's different players on that bench that you ain't seen, and all the players that paid, aren't seeing the floor at all. So it goes both ways, right? A cat at NB Nation back in the days used to say, I got my players and I got my payers.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean?
You just explained a very, very fundamental thing that's crazy that we just talked about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah. I've seen it all.
Yeah.
I've seen it all. And Maine is very interesting. You know what I mean? There's a lot of beautiful things going on in Maine, but there's some stuff where it's like, man, and naturally I could say some names, but I'm not going to do that. I mean, real ones know. But that's what needs to be cleaned up out here. That needs to be cleaned up out here, man. You got to be okay with the kid making a move to do what's best for them.
I just think that it's you can also see when somebody's doing it for good intent, and you're trying to obviously grow the game. But I think when you're not representing people equally, or people who gave your program a bunch of money, and you're just kind of shoving them to the side because they've paid, and then you have these players that you're trying to promote and who are also promoting your brand. It's a little political, and that's why I love.
That's a dirty game. When you say political, let's just say it's a dirty game. Is what it is.
Those
but
politics are dirty. But
yeah.
I think, yeah, just it goes way bigger than just basketball. But I think it's great when you are just giving equal opportunity to everybody, because I think everybody deserves equal opportunity and the players should play.
Yeah, and I feel like equal opportunity is huge, but even bigger than that is just keep it a buck with somebody. You know, for the viewers out there that don't know what keeping it a buck is, just keep it 100. Say exactly what it is. You know what I mean? If this is what it is, tell them from the beginning. You know what I mean? Honesty is always huge. So that's how I look at it.
Well, if you're being 100% honest, like, that's when you can be fully yourself. Like, if you're not being 100% honest, you're keeping it 100 with people, you're lying, and you're saying certain things that people are gonna take. Like, you might be just saying things to make somebody think some way about you. Like, like you're not being a buck, and that's when I think these politics can come into play.
Sadly, the politics come into play. They come into play. You do videography. There's just certain, you would think that, a lot of some of these videography guys are for all the kids. No, they're not. They're not for all the kids. You know what I mean? They have their favorites. They have the ones that they're always going to pump up, and whether it be with this particular program or that program, it's a funny way they move. And when they think that people don't see it, I see it. Like,
I think that's super interesting. I haven't really necessarily thought about it that way, but I think it could also be some people who are just doing it for like a monetary aspect, who's paying you versus like who's not paying you. But definitely also some cases where people could promote certain things, or like almost like political.
It's about the kids though, right? It's about everybody. So try to get everybody.
That's what I have tried to do. Like, anybody who reaches out, I'm not gonna not respond to you because you play, like, you went to some other videographer or whatever it is. You play for some organization or whatever. But I that's why I think, again, equal opportunity, and somebody who genuinely loves what they do and loves the sport is gonna not care what name, like, or what you care about the people and the players and growing everybody. It's a big quote that I like is, don't compete, create. So you're not trying to, like, there's no point to, obviously competition is good, and that's how you're making each other better if it's healthy, but negative competition is just gonna make like worse and worse and worse, and it's gonna spiral downwards and not grow Maine.
Yeah. And that's kind of my thing, overall, I think Maine is doing their thing, especially for our population being what it is. You know what I mean? Like, so for the most part, I mean, I feel like everybody's pretty much above board, but you always are going to have, a few little entities and a few different people that, they don't move the same as genuine people. And a lot of times that comes to light eventually, so.
Truth always comes to light, and there's also no light without dark. So all of this dark stuff, there's a little bit of dark stuff that you can talk about, but there's also so much positive stuff. So if we just focus on positivity and try to overcome that negativity with positivity, we're
collaborating.
Collaborating. Don't compete, create.
The collabs are like, that's the thing. Like, you can't be, to me, you just shouldn't be that person that's like, oh, you played in this organization, so I'm not going to talk to you. But then all of a sudden I'm in your organization, so now I'm the best thing since sliced bread. Like, don't do that. Give them love wherever they are. You know what I mean? There's no way I'm going to be like, Leonel, you know what? I'm starting a program. Man, bump Mass Rivals. No, that's where you are. That's what you're doing. That's where you're at.
And I think a great example of that, of how great we can be when we collaborate, is Team Maine, when everybody came together and put together this amazing team who went, ironically, out of state. And went and competed against great competition and showed that they can be one of the best teams in the freaking nation.
But what's going on with that now?
I don't know too much.
No, I'm just, we don't need to get into detail, but I mean, that's what happens, man. You have moments like that where things are supposed to be beautiful organically in the beginning, and then you have a few things that change it, that change the trajectory, And
you can see your people who are at the start in the grassroots, and who's genuinely doing it for the right reason and the right cause, and they just want to grow the game. But then once you have like some bad characters can just put their ego into it, and it just can explode a great thing, which is unfortunate. But I genuinely think there's good in everybody, and just because something happened in the past doesn't mean we can fix it and still come together in the future, and people can still be a part of it, get representation for themselves. But what's more important is getting representation for these kids and how Maine can compete at that national level.
1,000%. And I just think everybody deserves, give everybody their due, and it's doable. We've seen it.
It's not the easiest thing, obviously.
No.
But I think we can obviously just talk about this. But what I want to do even more is action speaks louder than words. So figuring out what we can do, the people we can talk to, the money we can raise to actually create something and do the actual thing, and not just talk about negative or positive aspects, but actually do something and help change Maine.
I'm with that. I can dig it.
Mm-hmm. And I think you mentioned that clip you saw. I had that clip on Instagram that got a bunch of people talking, and some people might look at that as negative. Some people might look at that as positive. I genuinely think it's great when you have the whole community of Maine talking. Some people obviously were probably trying to like persuade their side almost, or kind of give their opinion on the story. But just the fact that everybody's talking, whether those relationships were burnt, everybody's talking. So I think that is a step in the right direction when everybody is starting to talk, and we can talk together about how we can do things. Because if something negative happens, people might go in their ways after that, after something negative happens. But if we can get everybody to talk, especially the big dogs who have the pull and the money, like if we can get these people talking and bring something together, I think we could see something super special within the next 5 years and see something crazy with Maine.
Because and Lionel, I know this has been more one of those things where you just kind of go, as you should, right? You're the ball player, you know what I mean? But let's talk about your class. Because we're talking about the talent.
Oh my, this 2029 class, this freshman year is about to be fireworks.
Yes, that's your class this is an excellent class. It's one of the better classes that I've seen coming up. Just a lot of loaded talent. And so, I mean, what do you project? Like, what do you think in regards to AAU basketball? And you don't need to give your opinion in the way that that I do. I'm old. You know what I mean? You play ball. What do you think in regards to like what's happening in the future here?
You have had experience
I've had experience, but for me, I just want to play ball. I don't really care. As long as I'm playing the sport I love, that's all that matters to me. But I love playing alongside of my friends over the middle school season. We played against each other, but we competed. We went head to head and had a little trash talk, had a little, just obviously
like
competition, like we're supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, we were always friends, and we just hoop together. So hooping is just my only priority. I don't really care what team I'm playing for, as long as I'm hooping. That's
what's up.
And then also my dad, I don't make those decisions about teams and who's on my team. That's all my dad. So I just be hooping.
So I think we're at a very cool spot, and again, I don't think we're not trying to project negativity. We can highlight some negative things we've seen from our experience,
right,
but we're trying to do it in a positive light and help bring together. Because again, that going back to that quote, "Don't compete, create." We can do something very special here. Mm-hmm. You look at how special Cooper is in that attention. It's we're in a very, very, very cool and unique spot Maine has never been in before. So if we can all come together and collaborate from south and north of Maine and come together and create something, I think it would be legendary, and all of our names would be remembered forever if we can come together.
Exactly. Yeah, I hope it happens. I mean, and the thing is, Maine, we're not the only state where this is happening. I mean, it's even crazier in your Massachusetts. You know what I mean? It's just like I said,
it's kind of just like seems like it's kind of sort of starting. Obviously, it's been, but now the level is definitely growing with the media attention, and you have these players like JP going to big media and all this stuff.
Yeah. So,
but
Yeah.
All right, we can put a pin in that.
Yeah.
I think we should talk about. Let's revert back to.
Yeah, let's get
football.
some.
We have a camp. You have a camp that we should talk
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, it's called Gridiron Hustle Camp, and this will be my 11th year doing it. It started in well, my wife. She's the brains behind the operation. You know, what I mean, that's usually the case, right, Coach B? that's usually the case. But back in 2015, if you guys want to hear a little bit of the history of the camp,
Absolutely.
in 2015, when I was my first year being the head football coach at Deering, my wife was like, man, you should run a football camp. She's like, the kids are sick of selling things. You know how it is. The kids will sell candy bars or sell whatever, and then you end
Raffle tickets.
you end up buying all the candy bars because they ate them all. You know what I mean? So the kids don't really necessarily want to sell. So we were like, what can we do that's going to be different? And I did a football camp, and instead of the kids having to sell stuff, they had to give their time. So I have all the high schoolers coach. They coach the teams, and throughout the week, we have all these we put teams together. We have a draft. It's pretty cool.
That's
First
awesome.
day they go through their stations. Coaches are watching who's good and
awesome.
who's not. And then so the first 3 years it was more or less a fundraiser. And then I got done at Deering, and Louis Thurston, shout out Louis Thurston, quarterback of Portland High School, and my son Gabe, they were still little guys, and they were like, Coach Jackson, you got to keep and Dad, you got to keep the camp going. I said, all right. So I switched it up a little bit, made some different, changes, and now I could have kids from all over different schools. So it's all coached by high school kids. And the dope thing about it is the majority of the kids that coach, I want to say 90% of my coaches all grew up playing in the camp.
That's so.
So I
that's so
give
awesome.
them 40 hours of community service hours. So, and I write them a letter of recommendation at the end of the week, pay them $100 in cash to volunteer. You know what I mean? I feed them all week. It's just been a cool thing, and organically, it's just gotten to where I need it to be. Like, so it's one of those things. I don't want it to be huge and obnoxious, but and so I kind of keep it, the way it is, because I'm more of a quality over quantity guy. But it's definitely worked. It's been very successful for me over the years, and now I got different communities. Like I did it the first 3 years at Deering, and then started my own. And when I did it at Deering originally, I had a bunch of players from Freeport that wanted me to start one in Freeport. So then I did one. I said, all right. So I started one in Freeport after they asked me for a couple years. Did one in Freeport for 4 years. That one ended. Still have mine in what was in Portland. I recently moved it last year to South Portland. Then I got someone from Wales that said, we want you to run one up here. So now I'm going on 4th year in Wales. So then I had Greeley, Cumberland asking me to do one for like the last few years. We're going to have their first annual one this year. So that's kind of where it's at. So now I got 4 camps, doing them back to back.
Two in South Portland?
Yes.
And then,
So I have an NCAA division, which is 3rd through 5th grade. And then I have an NFL division, which is 6th through 8th, which I'm able to do in South Portland because originated in Portland, but that's the one that everyone kind of knows about. So that one's always going to have a good amount of kids, so I can have 2 divisions. So I had to have 2 separate weeks. Greeley, this is going to be their first year. I'm going 5th through 8th grade with that, and that's going to be July 21st to July 25th. And then Wales is going to be the following week, 3rd grade through 8th grade, July 28th to August 1st. And then I got my South Portland NFL, August 4th to the 8th. That's 6th through 8th grade, the NFL division. And then NCAA will finish it up, August 11th to the 15th. So if you go to the website, it's gridironhustle.wixsite.com. Hustle Camp, it should pop up. And my email address is gridironathletics207@yahoo.com if you want to reach out. I'm pretty open on here. My phone number's on here. Always, I ain't got nothing to hide.
And then
And then there's also So that's gridiron207@yahoo, but the main one's Gridiron Athletics.
okay.
So
Awesome.
But yeah, today was the
So-
first day. We just opened up registration today.
So if you're
and
in
we're
Greeley, Wells, or South Portland, and you're a football player, check this out. Definitely check this out. Go to gridironhustle.wix.site.com/hustlecamp, And check this out. It sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Also, for community service hours for these volunteers, as someone who was in NHS, I could have really used those 40 service hours.
I could have helped you, bro.
Maybe that $100 as well for volunteering. And you're getting fed.
It's not a lot, but but it's you're volunteering,
You're getting. It sounds awesome for everybody. In this draft, as a kid, or like in that draft, that NFL draft just happened. Definitely check this out. This sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's cool. And you know what's crazy? The coaches be worse than the kids. They be in there competing because we have at the end, we have the championship Friday, and that's where all the records from the whole week are calculated. The top seed plays the lowest seed, and we do it that way. So, championship rings, lollipops. I mean, the ring pops.
Ring pops. Awesome.
So that's how we do it.
Sounds like an awesome event.
Yeah, man.
And let's see. I have a couple fun questions here.
Okay.
What
So
are
these are the best.
Yeah. What's your favorite sports movie or book and why?
Ooh. Man, sports movie. Varsity Blues is good. That's just a fun, like, high school football movie. That's just,
What about Remember the Titans?
Remember the Titans is, that's a good one too. That's based on a true story. So yeah, that's definitely one. I also like Any Given Sunday with Jamie Foxx playing Willie Beeman. So
Blindside's also a good one.
yeah.
Oh yeah, Blindside, 100%.
I think recently, just because the draft day. I don't know if you've ever seen Draft Day, but that's a great one.
Okay.
One that I definitely like, that is like one of my favorite ones, is The Longest Yard.
Oh, yep.
And then also
You're not talking about the original though.
no, not the
Okay,
original, not the
the
original.
original.
With Adam Sandler.
No,
Yeah,
not the
I know you're
original.
talking about. Burt Reynolds is in that one too though. He comes in the end.
Yeah, and then also two of them. Remember the Titans and Sandlot. Those three are like,
Oh yeah.
a classic.
Sandlot is a
classic
classic.
material.
yeah.
You're right.
Advertise
I used
s'mores.
to watch that
Killing me,
all the
Small.
time.
Yeah.
Like during sometimes we'd have movie day in my elementary school, even in middle school. Every time everybody either pick a sports movie or just a fun movie in general. And my first pick was always Sandlot. Always.
Yes.
So yeah.
Great movie.
Another fun question.
And then if you could switch lives with any other coach or athlete for a day, who would it be?
Ooh. Wow. Wow. For a day?
Yeah, for a day.
Man, that's a tough question, bro. A coach or an athlete? I might have to say John Thompson for a day. I just, man, just prestigious black man that just kind of like changed a lot of lives, coach at a predominantly white school, private school, Georgetown. And man, he just kind of changed the culture.
And what was probably one of the most embarrassing or humorous moment that you've had coaching or just genuinely in your teenage life?
Ooh. Man, you guys got some tough ones. Embarrassing. I'm going to say teenage life. I'm going to say, man, being out on the football field, man, in mid-play, basically just kind of getting the ball, getting out of bounds, dropping the ball, and just running straight to the bathroom. Because I was about to do a little something in my drawers. You know what I'm saying? I'm surprised that doesn't happen more often to athletes.
What was that, KG or Paul Pierce?
You know?
Paul
Paul
Pierce.
Pierce, yeah, he tried to play the
With the
role like,
wheelchair,
yes,
the
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, them moments are real. They have to happen more. I heard a Bob Hurley story about that, too. And Coach K was putting him on blast about it to other people down. Hurley was hot about it, but yeah. Yeah, man, there's nothing like having to use the bathroom.
Okay.
And then if you could give one piece of advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Oh, you stole my question.
Sorry
Man.
about that. Now you can ask it. You can ask it.
Man, this has a lot to do with with the beauty of you guys being able to speak multiple languages. When I was young, my mom made me take Spanish, and I basically cried my way out of it. Took it for a few weeks. I'm never gonna need this. Blah, 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 blah. I wish, yeah. You know what I'm saying, Coach? I wish she would have took me and been like, yeah, no, you're gonna take it, and you're gonna take it all the way up. There's a lot of money in being able to speak another language and just to be able to communicate with people, man. Like, It's the worst only being able to speak English. You know what I mean? So
Not even, like
for
English,
me-
and I still want to practice English, like, cause I can't.
exactly what you said. I can barely speak my native tongue. You know, if you want to call it native, but so no, man. I wish I would have. I wish I would have listened and definitely learned a second language.
Okay, I guess I'll change my question up a little bit. So
Yeah,
obviously,
go ahead.
South Portland basketball lost in the finals last year. What advice would you give to these players, these basketball players, for this year?
Players that were on that team that are no longer going to be
Yeah,
there.
players that are
Everybody
going to be playing for South Portland this next
year.
So,
It's just, man, just take it one game at a time. And one thing Coach Millie always says that I really appreciate about him is like, look, it's not really how we start. You know, we want to be playing our best basketball going into the tournament. And that's what I'm going to just tell them. Just get better each day. You know, get on that Lionel Despacio grind. You know, get on that Gabe Jackson grind. I mean, like, I see what you do out there, and I see what Gabe is doing, and I'm like, wow. Like, he's dedicated. So that's my thing, is just be dedicated to the craft.
be dedicated to something.
Be dedicated to the craft and be willing to learn.
I mean, basketball is basically just like my fuel in life. So without basketball, I don't know who I'm gonna be. So
Yeah, you're going to be the type that plays if you make it or you don't. You're still going to be a
I always
certified
play
hooper.
ball.
Yes. That's beautiful.
Yeah, shout out to 100%. Just give you a shout out because thank you for being here.
This was a great episode. We talked
Awesome.
about a
I appreciate
lot
you
of
whole
guys,
lot of
man.
stuff.
I'm pretty long-winded, so I appreciate you guys for having me, man.
Of course. So,
I mean-
Lionel, you want to give some final shout-outs?
Yeah, obviously. Thank you guys for watching this episode. Want to give you a shout out. Shout out to JoJo for being here. Shout out to my dad. Shout out to y'all. Thank you guys for almost getting us to 1K followers on the Playoff Podcast. You
what's
guys
up.
got us to almost to 600 on the playbook. Thank you guys for your support. Make sure you guys keep liking, subscribe, comment. Whenever you want to get on here, just let me know and I got you. I'll invite you guys. Hey, don't be shy to get on camera. Being camera shy not gonna help.
No.
Once you get
Speak
famous,
it.
you're gonna have a lot of cameras
Let
in your
'em know.
face. So
Let
I
'em
mean,
know.
you got to get used to it at some point. So
Yeah.
might as well just come here and we family friendly. I'm your guy. You know me, all right? You just got to come here and talk. It's just talking together. It's
That's
like
it.
having a normal conversation at your lunch table. So just pull up.
Yeah, definitely. We're trying to get as many people on as we can. Shout out to Maine Love for keeping us hydrated. Thank you for supplying us with water. It's the best water in the game, truly. We have so many updates. It's a truly beautiful company. We're gonna stay tuned. So many big things coming. We got some tournaments coming up. Obviously, we're gonna stay hydrated with Maine Love in.
That's what's up.
And thank you for coming here. This has been a great episode, and just can't wait to get back in the studio. We'll bring you guys some more content.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I just want to shout you guys out for letting me on. I reached out to Coach B a while ago and was like, hey, man, I'm really digging what Lionel's doing. I actually reached out to Miss Beatrice at school and said, man, I'm digging that, man. I'd love to get on there and rap to him a little bit. And so I appreciate you guys, man, letting me come on and kind of speak a little bit. And naturally, I can be long-winded, but, sometimes I got a little game for the public. I want to shout out my family, my wife, Andrea Jackson, who holds me down. She's the glue behind everything. Obviously, my boys, Gabe, Jalen, Darius. I want to shout out my older boys, Clay Hardy, both of my other sons. Ben Williams. Yeah. Oh yeah. Shout out the dogs. I got 3 of them, or 2 of them cats, but like another one. So shout out to everybody, man. I want to shout out Maine, South Portland for sure. I represent SP. Yeah, man. I just want to say thank you, man, and one love to all you guys, man. Keep doing what you're doing.
Yes, sir. Always.
Appreciate it. It's a beautiful
Thank
thing
you.
you guys got going on.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That was great.